Hello everyone, I am Nadisha Lankadhikara and my co-author is Professor Ratnayake. We are going to present our research study under the session titled Design Outdoors, and this is the today's content of our presentation. And moving to the background of this research study, actually our title of this research is an investigation of the aspects that affect the quality of revitalized public spaces with a special reference to the city of Colombo, Sri Lanka. So why we have going to do a research within this research arena? Because there are already scholars and the researchers, they have defined the usage or the importance of doing a research for the quality of revitalized public spaces. One of the researchers, they bring the outcomes to the quality of revitalized public spaces as to bring the intercultural communities together, and these are the places that can be reflect the social life and interaction of people, and whereas these places can generate a sense of place as well as sense of community by encouraging local activities and special events that are integral part of the urban heritage. So these are our main research questions: how people perceive and what are their experiences and perceptions on the quality of revitalized urban public spaces. The second question is, what are the barriers that can be identified in the Sri Lankan process of revitalization? Along with these research questions, we have two objectives. First one is to identify the people's perceptions and their attributes or the experiences towards to the quality of revitalized public spaces, and the second objective is to identify the barriers and the things need to be improved within the Sri Lankan revitalization process. And considering about the literature review, these are the two main parts that we are considering within our research study. Public space simply defined as an area or place that is open and accessible to all peoples regardless of gender, race, ethnicity, age or socio-economic level, whereas revitalization can be identified as an idea to balance the current rapid development in the urban context through conserving the city's identity, culture, and historical legacy. So, these are some of the findings from the literature review. These attributes can be identified as the quality of public spaces, sociability, access and linkages, uses and activities, comfort, and image. So, we already use these four attributes as one of our framework to this research study. And while understanding our research scoping, first part is about demographic and socio-economic profiling. Then we are moving to the behavioral patterns of the respondents. And thirdly, we discuss about the satisfaction level for facilities and the users' memorable experiences. And lastly, we are going to talk about the barriers or the limitations and the things need to be improved within the Sri Lankan revitalization process. So this is how we actually design our research methodology. We have collect our data via secondary and primary data, and with this COVID-19 pandemic situation, we thought to gather data via more than online platforms, online questionnaire surveys, in-depth interviews, and Google reviews. And considering about the concepts and theories, quality of place, sense of place, placemaking theory can be identified as the three main concepts within this research study. So with that understanding, we have defined our own definition for the revitalized public spaces. These are the places that can reveal the past glory in a novel way that depicts the changing needs of the community while preserving its historical cultural legacy for the next generation to feel it with modernity. So, considering about the case study selection, we have focusing our attention towards to the Colombo city. So, these are the justification for selecting these three cases: Arcade Independent Square, Dutch Hospital, and Racecourse. So, we have identified that these three places can be identified as the revitalized urban public spaces because these places are used for another usage in a one-time period of time in the history, but in the present, it totally different usage we can see. And for the findings, these are the demographic and socio-economic profiling. Out of 103 questionnaires respondents, we got 72% of them female, and majorities are belong to 18 to 25 years old age category, and 52% of them are students, and 76% of them are unmarried. So these findings are somewhat biased findings because we have used online methods for collecting the data. And second part is behavioral patterns of the respondents. These are interconnected with the sociability, access and linkages, and comfort and image. These types of attributes also. We have identified purpose of visit, length of staying, and frequency of visit. Times of visit can be influenced on people to have a behavioral patterns of these types of revitalized public spaces. And more else, from the traveling behavior, we have asked from the respondents with whom actually they wanted to visit these places, and this is how they gave their respondents, and these findings are interconnected with the Gale's findings. He emphasized that most people prefer to have a good time with their closer friends, and while you visit these places with your closer friends, your low intensity level may become high intensity. And then move into the third part, perception on the satisfaction level for the existing facilities. There we have used a relative important indexing for done this analysis, and you can see for the arcade independence score, availability of CCTV cameras, availability of monuments, woods and restaurants can be identified as the highly satisfied facilities, whereas facilities for disabled people, availability of lighting can be identified as the dissatisfied facilities. So this is not giving some insight of these are the facilities 100% dissatisfied, but they trying to say that these facilities need to be improved. So these are some of the utterances came out from the perception regarding with the revitalizing of public urban spaces with the foreign visitors and the local visitors, whereas we have asked the expertise opinions or the perception on behalf of these public spaces, and most of the town planners from UDA they have emphasized that there is a need to have an institutional engagement in the management and protecting these sites, and although these are appeared as a good project, but the target group should be identified for the proper functioning of these places. And with that onwards, we are giving some insight for the question number one, and we are reaching to the objective number one. And moving to the second part, it's about memorable experiences. And with the literature review survey, we have found that various activities, physical form, historical values can be influenced on creating a memorable experience of a user. So we done a small photo voice survey analysis by using the thematic analysis also. There we could able to identify 6 themes: activities, function and events, foods and restaurants, enjoy the place, historical values, architectural values, renovation of the place, and most of the photos or the captures are captured within the social opportunity category. And the second one is place quality, and the third one is physical form. So you can see these are the aspects that really influence for a user to have a memorable experiences within a revitalized public spaces, and at the same time activities, events and functions that are integral part of creating a memorable experiences of a user. And these are the results obtained for the barriers that we have identified throughout our expertise questionnaire surveys and the interviews. We have divided these barriers into 4 parts. Social barriers is talk about the lack of public awareness and political intervention, social reluctance, and legal and regulatory barriers. Most of the time people do not have common sense regarding with the existing rules, and there are institutional constraints we can see. And for the physical and technical barriers, they say that a scarcity of required materials, unavailability of proper structural and service drawings, lack of complex technologies can be identified. And for the other barriers, they have recognized that conducting continuous professional development session need to be there, and there's a lack of getting feedback after the implementation of these types of projects. And these are the things actually they have made as suggestions, so the things need to be improved within our Sri Lankan process: public awareness, adaptive reuse, public and private partnership, and including this adaptive reuse or the revitalization as a concept of further studies, and conducting continuous professional development programs is essential, and finally enhancing and improving the resources for conducting research and development is another thing to need to be improved within our Sri Lankan process. So with that all, I would like to get some contribution of this research for the future researchers. There is absence of adequate results for the research for the economic valuation on or the property market behavior, how these things impact on these types of revitalized public spaces. And there is a research need to done with the management process of these types of adaptive reuse projects. And at the same time, there is a research to do how to these projects can be ensuring the maximum possible financial returns, because already these projects can be known as challenging tasks or the risky projects. So while concluding this presentation, I would give some kind of an question to think: what attributes are worth restoring and what areas must change to ensure the productive operations are still questionable, the competitive development trends in the cities like Colombo. And with that understanding, I would like to conclude our presentation, and thank you very much for your kind cooperation.